Hi everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about how our soul tricks our human into doing the conscious thing. It tricks us into going into some type of expanding process. Some people want to call it spirituality. A lot of times these things are kind of labeled as spirituality, but the soul will trick you to get you there because it knows what the human wants. The human, our human aspect, has a trait that never really shifts from person to person. And that is the manipulation trait of the human. The human is always trying to manipulate. That's what our human aspect does. It's built on manipulation. Now, the flip side of that is it can be very easily manipulated, right? It can be very easily manipulated into getting, because it wants something. So it can be very easily manipulated. So people will ask, why do I get attracted to one thing over the other? Why do certain things get certain people? Why did I really want to read this book? Well, it depends on what you're into, right? So if you're really into wanting to attract wealth, then books like The Secret are going to attract you. Any stream on attracting abundance is going to attract you. Any meditations on abundance energy is going to attract you. If you're into the twin flame energies or the soulmate energies and you want to attract that one, even though I really don't have one, but you're still in that mindset where there is one, you are going to go toward things that are going to expand that knowledge for you. You're going to go to something that's going to attract your twin flame. Read this book about the runner and the chaser, or the whole twin matrix, which is a whole convoluted distortion in itself, but you're going to go toward that type of stuff because that's what interests you. If you've had health issues and you've been through a lot of the traditional medicine that's not helping, you might start trying the more holistic stuff. Meditation, Reiki, I'm trying to think of something else. More like hands-on manipulation. I get a lot of hands-on manipulation for my body, myself, but you go toward those types of things. So whatever is going to get the human, that's the carrot that's going to get dangled. Now, it's different than the carrot that gets dangled when you're in your human realities, because in your human realities, your human dangles carrots. Like, oh, if you just had this, you'd be fine. Oh, that's not going to work. Now you want that, but it's kind of nothing at the end of it. Whereas when the soul starts doing it, there is something at the end of it. It's just not the reason you got into it in the first place. Reading a book about how to attract wealth is going to open you up to different aspects on consciousness, open you up to energetics of things, but it's not going to get you the real essence of wealth. By the time you expand your consciousness to those things, and usually these are it's like a gateway. These are the gateways that open you up to something bigger. You might start off with a book like The Secret. I can't remember what book I started off with. I want to think I read The Secret, but I don't think that was my first one. I liked a lot of the intuition ones. I was really into a twin flame activation, but I did that thing like about 400 times at least. I could recite the whole thing because I was really into those energies. I really wanted that connection. But then after time, you get to understand the whole point of it. The whole point of it is to hold yourself. It has nothing really to do with bringing in anybody else, but that's the carrot my soul dangled to get me into it. And then by the time you understand that, a lot of the reason you got into it, those were human motivations. Those were human reasons. And they really don't pack a punch, so to speak, the higher your consciousness goes. Those things don't matter anymore. The energetics of the situation change. You understand that that might not be aligned, and that's not going to come in that way, especially if you have your sights on one particular thing. Usually the human will want one particular thing, and that's what it's going to focus on. And it'll use all these things to get that one particular thing, not really understanding that it's not about that one thing. That's what's getting you into the game, but that's not what the game's about. That's just getting you in there. It's getting you in the door. That's not what's about in the room once you get in the door. But it has ways of tricking people. That's why there's so many different things out. because everyone has that one thing that's going to hook them in. When it's your time to get hooked in, you might just go somewhere and hear someone talking about something, but there's something about that person that attracts you. You like the way that person looks. There's something about the way that person's voice, but they were supposed to say something that was going to get you thinking about something. Everyone has a different thing that's going to motivate them. Like if you're motivated, let's say I'm going to just use it. If you're a guy and you really like to talk to, the typical guy, I guess, likes to talk to a pretty girl in a bar, you might start talking to a pretty girl in a bar and she might start talking about dreams or ascension or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, but that just got you there. You like the way the person looked, and that's what got you in the conversation, because that's what attracted you. It could be the sexual thing, that's what attracted you there, but that's not really why you're there. You're there to learn about something else. So it's kind of funny to watch how easily the human could be manipulated. And once you get to certain levels of consciousness yourself, instead of your higher self manipulating your human, you kind of learn how to manipulate other humans. Like I've learned over time, I guess time might not be the word, but during different frequencies, different expansions I've had, humans very easy to manipulate, because the other thing that all humans hate is to feel left behind in any way, to not feel included. And it's kind of the distortion of the human that keeps you in the human experiments, the human experience. It keeps you in it because you don't want to be ostracized from the group, right? But it can be used, the higher aspects of your soul or of someone else's soul can use it against, but can use it against might not be the word. The human will think it's against them, but it's really not. Can use them to kind of get them into higher levels of consciousness, because they don't want to be left out. If I'm doing something and talking to someone and I gift an Endara to a person, and this other person comes up that I know and they didn't get an Endara, they want an Endara. They didn't want an Endara 10 minutes ago, but now they want an Endara because someone else got an Endara. So you kind of learn that the human doesn't want to be left out. So if you kind of leave the human out, the human will want to be into whatever you're doing. It's curious enough to be into whatever it's doing. Now, I used the word earlier in this, like a minute ago, that it's a manipulating. It's really not so much manipulating, because you have an agreement with that person. Like if it's me and I'm kind of, I don't want to say playing, but I'm kind of playing these realities out with someone in their human aspect, I have an agreement with that person to provide some level of consciousness to their life, to open them up in some way. So they've agreed to the manipulation, if you want to use that word. They've agreed to the trick I'm about to pull on them, because they've asked me to do that unconsciously, but I know that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to kind of dangle that carrot in a sense and move forward, because the human doesn't like that. So you'll start to see different ways you can sneak consciousness in to people, and they don't really realize that's what you're doing. But it's always going to be that one thing. I know I had my tells, and for me it was always the whole soulmate twin flame thing. That would be what would get me in. But once you got in, or in my very early years, attracting back, an ex-boyfriend or something. That was one of my big ones too, in my very early days. It opens you up. The soul knows what to do to get that human in there. Like, oh, you want this? You can have all that. And then once you get, the more conscious you get, you realize none of that shit is what you really want. And none of that stuff matters, and that's really not why you're here. So it's kind of the funny flip side of how our human can be played with. Like a little, dangle a little string for it. It works, like I said, it works that way in its human realities too. The human experiment is always dangling a little play toy for the human to go, oh, I want that little carrot, I'll do that for that. It's a flip side of it too. When you become more expanded, that you start to do it to yourself. Your soul will start to do it to your human. Not just your human realities doing it to your human, which is really you doing it to yourself, I guess. So, okay, that's it. Look at what your tells are, and look at how in the past that tell has gotten you into more conscious situations, whether you wanted to be there or not. And keep practicing the art of intuition.